Good afternoon from Moscow. I'm Steve Rosenberg, the BBC Moscow Correspondent. I'm on Pushkin Square in the centre of the Russian capital. I say on Pushkin Square, but in fact, these barriers have just appeared, blocking off the main part of the square. You can see the Pushkin statue behind there. These barriers weren't here on Sunday when there was a large anti-government protest, but apparently scheduled reconstruction work has begun today, 2 days after the protest. We can see, if we look over there, there's a police van. I don't know what they're doing, protecting the reconstruction work, maybe. Let's take a walk around the square and see what's going on. As I say, on Sunday I was here on Pushkin Square, and there were thousands of people packed onto the square for an anti-corruption, anti-government protest. It was one of the largest anti-government protests the capital has seen for some time. And it was part of a day of protests, because across the country, in dozens of towns and cities, thousands of people came out to accuse the Russian government of corruption. So we're walking around Pushkin Square. You can see there's some work going on. Actually, they're putting more barriers up. That's what they're doing. So it looks like protesters won't have the chance to come onto this part of the square for some months. The reconstruction work's due to carry on, I think, until October. Now, the man who had called people onto the streets on Sunday was Alexei Navalny, the anti-corruption campaigner and Russia's main opposition leader. He was detained yesterday. He was sent to jail for 15 days for disobeying the police. But I think it's fair to say that Sunday's protests, which were the biggest Russia's seen since 2012, really cemented Mr. Navalny's position, his status in Russia, as the unofficial leader of the Russian opposition. So as we come round the square, we can see there's a lot of, well, wooden stuff. There's a truck pulling something up. Obviously they're blocking off Pushkin Square for this, well, urgent reconstruction work, it would seem. Let's come over here. If you look in that direction, that's the other part of Pushkin Square, there's the famous Russia cinema. Now, someone who was here at the protests on Sunday was Alexei Navalny.
That's right, yes.
Alexei, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, yes.
Tell me, why did you consider it important to come out to protest on Sunday?
Well, I had some doubts about this, because I thought that, that the process waned and dwindled to something separate and small. But still, my mom went protesting, and she's nearly 80, so I thought I must go, just because of this as well. And also I thought that the subject of this protest is important and interesting. That was the second reason.
The Kremlin yesterday said it respected the right of people to come out and voice their opinions, but said that this protest was unsanctioned and therefore illegal.
Well, according to the Constitution, to the Article 31, we have the right to come wherever we want, together in whatever quantities we want, and just to inform the authorities that we are going to do it. That's it. The rest is just nonsense, So, I'll put it mildly, let them mind their own business, the authorities. It's our right, it's written, and so we have to stand for our rights. That's it.
If you have any questions for Alexei or for me about the protest and about what happens next in Russia, do send them in. I think we've got questions coming in already. Bretta asks, what are the long-term consequences of punishing political opponents? How does this impact democracy in Russia, but also the greater practice? Is this a sign that the democratization process in Russia is not complete, or that it is not democratic? So the long-term consequences of punishing political opponents, are there?
Well, I'm sure that Russia under Putin is not democratic at all. It's at least authoritarian. That's my point of view. But at the same time, thanks God, it's not Stalin's times or some other idiot dictator. And so we have that opportunity to exercise and to build our democracy under pressure. That's how I view this situation now.
Andrew writes to us that they're not anti-government, the protesters. They just want a different one, a different government.
Well, what we want is, again, to change the president and the authorities as according to the constitution. One of the most important things is our right to change our authorities every second time. I mean, according, like, now they changed it to 6 years term, it used to be 4 years term. But anyway, it's enough. Go away, guys. We're a bit tired of you, you know. It's not to you, of course, but I mean to Mr. Putin and his...
One thing that struck me, Alexei, was that we often hear that President Putin has a very high approval rating of more than 80%, that he enjoys popularity across the country. And yet the Kremlin seems rattled by these protests. On Sunday, what was interesting was that the state-controlled television channels didn't mention the protests at all. And these protests were taking place in nearly 100 towns and cities across the country. And yet, if you watched the state media, it was as if this wasn't happening at all.
That's because they are under complete control of the government, except very few channels and very few radio stations and a couple of newspapers who still keep on doing a good job. And they were just told not to inform and not to tell people about what's going on in the streets. And the second thing was, it's also easy. They didn't want people to watch this Navalny's film about Medvedev. And of course, if they inform the people all around the country of the reason Navalny called this meeting, this rally, they had to tell, at least in theory, that the film was the reason.
This is a film which Alexei Navalny made about the Russian Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, alleging that the Prime Minister was corrupt, alleging that he had concealed massive assets such as mansions and yachts and even vineyards. I should say that Dmitry Medvedev's office dismissed that as propaganda.
Right. And, well, they didn't want it to be, well, publicized in any way. So that was the second reason.
Let me put an alternative view. Shirley writes to us that Putin seems to have Russia's best interests in mind. He's fighting the progressive globalization.
Putin is fighting progressive globalization. Well, I think he is just building his own globalization. That's Ruski Mir, that's so-called Russian world, and that's what he wants. He doesn't want to stop, from my point of view.
But he has friends. He has friends now around the world. Donald Trump, for example,
yes,
or Marine Le Pen in France.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but well, Trump is a funny person. That's, you know. And he has some friends, but they're a bit, you know, also kind of mentally disturbed, to my mind.
Klaus writes to us. Klaus says that it's time that the West and Russia got out of each other's faces, suggesting that perhaps they should just leave each other alone.
Again, what's Russia? Putin's Russia. He is also interested in being popular in the West, and all his aides, his friends, they have assets in the West, they have bank accounts, their children go to study to England or US or Europe. So I don't think that he really wants it. He wants it, but on his terms. And not to part and to separate.
But would it be true to say that there are many people in Russia who do sympathise with Vladimir Putin, and that his strong-arm anti-Western style and attitude does strike a chord with a large part of the Russian population? Or can that be explained away by the Kremlin's complete control over television?
I think both reasons are true. First of all, I think that his so-called high rating is not that high, but just because people say this, that they like Putin because they don't want to have any problems. And the second reason is that's true because he's and he behaves like a tough guy. And that is because he was allowed to behave this way. Because, unfortunately, to my mind, there are no people in the West like Margaret Thatcher or President Reagan. And I don't want to say that their policy was impeccable or absolutely correct, but they knew how to deal with the dictators. That's one thing they had.
I think our telephone batteries are going down very fast. It's bitterly cold here.
Yeah.
Do you think that Alexei Navalny will run for president next year? He says he intends to run, but will the authorities allow him to, do you think?
Well, that's difficult to say. That's unpredictable because there are, of course, a couple of reasons. There are some reasons not to allow him, and there are other reasons to allow him because they want as many people to come to the voting polls, as many people as possible, and that's important because, of course, any president elected even 90% of the voters, but out of 15%, people who came, this is much worse than 50% out of, say, 75%. Who came and so on.
It's interesting that Alexei Navalny has been going across Russia in recent months, opening election campaign offices. So he clearly intends to be a candidate, I think, in next year's presidential election. But he has a suspended sentence for embezzlement. Now, he and his supporters say that was politically motivated. That could well prevent him from running. But at the moment, he's acting as if he does intend to run for president. I think it's clear. I think Sunday's events show that he probably wouldn't win an election, but he certainly is the biggest political rival
Right.
of Vladimir Putin right now in Russia.
Right. Yeah, I think he is a real politician in his right, and he knows how to do it, so whether we like it or not. But he is a real politician, and he is playing his game, I think, very successfully.
Alexei, thank you so much for joining us. Well, from Pushkin Square, it's starting to snow now. Thanks for watching.